Hi guys, Togre here with a new video, and this video I want to clarify one of my recent videos where I do talk about melees struggling in 10.2 solo shuffle and with the POV of a warrior, but also I think a Retribution Paladin. I could also be talking about feral druids. I could be talking about a lot of specs that struggle in solo shuffle, especially because it is a caster heavy meta. And I do understand. Whoa, pitchforks, please drop it down. I'm saying it's a caster meta. I am not saying that melees are weak. I'm just saying that melees struggle in caster heavy lobbies. I do understand that some people are going to say, but there are many melee lobbies out there, and I do understand. But as a caster, I personally think, since I do play hunter, I do play warlock, I do play mage, currently I'm struggling way more whenever I'm playing versus other casters in the lobby than versus melees. I do understand that melee lobbies are very hard for a lot of people because, again, I understand at certain high levels of play it's difficult to kite, it's difficult to actually survive because the healers are not used to heal casters, and there are many problems with that. For example, whenever you're kiting and the priest or the resto druid is not correctly positioning themselves to be able to heal you at any time, yes, I understand it's very difficult to survive versus melees, but I do understand. And again, from my POV, from playing multiple classes at multiple levels of play between 2k MMR at the moment, or between 1.4k MMR if I'm like playing a Frost DK at the moment, the perspective is that for me casters are easier to play than melees currently, and that for melees they struggle quite hard in solo shuffle because of all those casters. And I'm going to show you guys because I get a lot of comments, and I understand it's not to put anyone in a bad light, so I'm not going to show any comments. But if you want to look it up, you can always look it up. People say like that it's a melee heavy meta and that there are a lot of melees, and that I'm talking gibberish because the data is not there, for example, or they're saying that they do not encounter any caster heavy lobbies, which I can understand. Again, it's really luck based. It really depends. And also, if you're playing demonology warlock, the likelihood of playing versus another demonology warlock is very low, simply because you don't have a lot of demonology warlock in general, but also just in general they try to separate specs, so you're not playing mirror matchups. But even then, I'm going to show you guys a bit of data because, again, everything I'm saying is data proven, analytical proven, but also just if you're hopping into games, you will see. In general, I'm going to take US and EU. You will see way more melees than ranged. It always has been like this. It doesn't mean that ranged are like worse. It just means that people do prefer to play melees. It just is what it is at the end of the day. Also, you will see way more class diversity, I would say, playing melees than playing ranged. For example, again, if you're playing a mage, likely is that you're playing a ranged. You have a fire mage, a frost mage, and a arcane mage. If you're playing warlock, you will see affliction, destruction, demonology warlock. If you're playing hunter, even, you have 2 range specs and only 1 melee spec. If you're playing evoker, you have 2 range spec and 1 healer spec. You have way less class diversity if you're playing ranged than melee. It just is what it is at the end of the day. But also, just in general, that melee players tend to play other melee classes and melee specs, and also sometimes they don't want to play ranged because they don't want to kite, or they don't like ranged, or it's just not the same. While a ranged spec can and often has a melee spec as well as an alt or another main, for example. You see a lot of people actually do that, for example, these days. In general, people don't like to play ranged in general. I would say, if you're thinking like you're taking someone from World of Warcraft and you're asking what's their favorite spec, often they will say Havoc Demon Hunter, Arms Warrior, like an all-time favorite. I would say Retribution Paladin is also one of the all-time favorites. Rogue, just the class, not the specs, because specs, I think they are very interchangeable depending on metas. You will see and you will hear a lot of those. And then you have also ranged ones. A lot of people that like hunter, like for example BM hunter, MM hunter, you will see a lot of them, although the representation is a bit lower, but I'm going to explain why. You will not hear a lot of people say that Warlock is their main class, because it just is not often the case. Warlock is one of the least represented specs and class in the game. I'm not talking about higher MMR. Higher MMR has nothing to do with it. It just is the amount of people that play Warlock in the game is just simply lower than Warrior in general. You can halve it by 2. You can even you can divide it by 2 or even divide by 3, and that is the population of a Warlock. That is just in general. It just is how it is at the end of the day. People just play way more Warrior than any other spec. It just is what it is. And then Demon Hunter and DKs, you will see you have way more representation at 1800. Simply put, Demon Havoc, Demon Hunter, Havoc Demon Hunter is just simply a spec that is very noob friendly. First and foremost, the skill floor is very low. The skill ceiling is a bit higher. I'm going to say the difference between a very good Demon Hunter and a very bad one is night and day, but that is not the question. The skill floor is low. For a warrior, the skill floor is also low. People just like to play something where they can just turn their brain off. Again, I'm playing a warrior, by the way. I'm saying that not to discredit anyone. To just turn their brain off after a long day of work and play without having to kite, without having to feel like they're a victim every time they're jumping into PvP. And I understand that because I do play Warlock also, I do play mage also, I even play elemental shaman also. So Train Blue is a thing, for example. But for Unholy DK, Unholy DK is one of those specs that it is not a fan favorite spec. It is not a fan favorite class either. It just is in general, whenever it's a bit bad in the meta, it is barely played. That is the kind of spec it is on Unholy DK. You have a lot of specialists in the meta. For example, you have a lot of streamers that play Unholy DK, but you don't have a lot of people that are die-hard Unholy DKs, except if they are very strong in the meta. And right now, Unholy DK is very strong in the meta. You see a lot of them at 1800, you see a lot of them at 2100, you even see them at 2400. They are very strong, they're meta. Demonology Warlock, by the way, is not a popular spec. It is a spec that is not a fan favorite spec. It is not a spec where people are saying, I am a die-hard Demonology Warlock, I love Demonology Warlock, I love to have my pets attack and literally try to cast and get kicked on it, but still do damage on it with my Tyrant that is buggy as hell, and my AI is buggy as hell. And no, Demonology Warlock is not a popular spec. I sometimes enjoy to play it. I prefer to play Destruction Warlock, I prefer to play Affliction Warlock, but I would never call myself a die-hard Demonology Warlock. If I have a choice between the meta being a Destruction Warlock or Affliction Warlock meta or a Demonology Warlock, Demonology Warlock will never be meta. But at the end of the day, you will see they're top 2 at 1800 for some reason. And out of those top 2 628 Warlocks, you have at 2100 in the US 115, which is 1/6. Let's just round it up. 1/6 of the Demonology Warlocks that are 1800 are actually 2100. While, for example, our Arms Warrior at 1800, at 1800 plus, you will see 1160 Arms Warriors, but at 2100 for some reason there are only 139, so it's only 1/10. I'm even making it better for us, 1/10. So you see that the likelihood of a Demonology Warlock being higher rated is higher because you just see more better players, I guess, or you will see that they are very meta, which I think is the case. And in general, you will see them at higher lobbies, because at higher lobbies, healers know how to heal casters. So it's a never-ending cycle where if you can climb out of those lower lobbies, you will get better over time. For example, my BM Hunter, the higher I go, the easier it becomes, because it just is what it is. At the end of the day, a healer knows how to trade CDs, while some healers don't. And for example, I'm a terrible healer, so I know what I'm talking about. So I'm not saying that there are way more Demonology Warlock, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that for the amount of Demonology Warlocks that are in the game, you will see way more of a percentile being higher rated compared to the overall population, as let's say Arms Warrior has. For example, Arms Warrior, you will have way more Arms Warriors even below 1800, but you cannot track it. But even below 1800, it is filled with arms warriors, it is filled with DKs, it is filled with demon hunters. I'm not saying that it's not like you're not seeing melees. I'm saying that it is currently not a melee meta, except for the top two, which in my opinion, having demon hunter and unholy DKs are. And then you have like rogues, which I'm not counting as melees in my books. For me, it's a specialist spec. Again, I might make a video about it, how I see some specs. For example, balance druid, I don't really see them as casters anymore, in my opinion. So it is a caster, don't get me wrong, but it does not operate like a normal caster that wants to go in open, try to dish out damage, and try to I would say have a clear win condition based on output. They are winning because of like a root beam or a cyclone. It's not winning because of like having to hard cast spells, like let's say a frost mage or a arcane mage or demonology warlock or even a BM hunter, although it's not the same, it's not casting, but it's kind of the same really. But again, it is purely saying that it is normal that you have way more melees in general than casters. It has nothing to do with power level, it has nothing to do with them being underpowered, it has nothing to do with them being overpowered or being a melee meta, because even whenever it was the worst caster meta, I'm even thinking about BFA at that point, you would see more melees than ranged. You will see a high population at higher rating for ranged, because they were like clearly busted, like Destruction Warlock Fire Mage, but the overall population is still more melees, so you will be seeing way more melees. It just is what it is at the end of the day. And the only exception is probably healers, where it's more clear. They are playing, like a lot of healers are actually playing multiple healers, so they hop on the stronger healers. It just is how they are operating. And it's even more of a thing in EU. Again, I'm talking about US, but EU, I think it's way worse because we are more meta-centric. We, from Europe, we love playing meta. You see that in every single game. In League of Legends, we also play like the meta. It just is how it is at the end of the day. And the US is a bit more exotic. And then you have other regions in League of Legends, for example, but in World of Warcraft, it is quite the same. You see, in 1800, you see 542 warlocks, like demonology warlock, in solo shuffle at 1800 plus, and 940 arms warriors. If you're looking at 2100, out of those 542, you will see 106 demonology warlock being 2100, which is, I would say, again, I'm like rounding it up, it's 1/5, so it's even closer than the US, for example, at 84 arms warriors, which is not any, it's not even 1/10 anymore, it's a bit more. So I mean, it's a bit less, like a bit less over percentile. Anyways, you see what I mean. So in general, if you cannot say that it is not a, if you don't think it's not a custom meta, then I don't know what I can tell you guys. You see 78 Destruction Warlock, which is also very strong. You see only 420 at 1800, so it's 1/5, pretty much, right? Something like that, 1/5, pretty much, that are currently 2100. So it means that if you get 1800, your likelihood to be actually 2100 is 1/5 of the population. I know it is not always like this, because some people stop at playing at 1800, I guess, but again, those are statistics, data, and it's not even taking the whole World of Warcraft into account, where you will see way more melees in general than ranged. But even then, I'm thinking about 1600, you will see way more melees than ranged. But at the end of the day, who is actually climbing? Some ranged people. And then they're like using the argument of, but did you see Havoc Demon Hunter? Did you see TKs? Well, guess what? Those two specs are actually phenomenal versus casters. What are the odds? Like, the only melees that actually has a great shot at being good versus casters are actually high on the ladder. And then you have Arms Warrior, which is alright. I guess it's not the worst at playing versus casters, because you can really play hide and seek pretty much and kind of win on that because of your CDs. But it's really map heavy, like it's map dependent first and foremost. It's also healer dependent, because you will need some kind of a freedom or some kind of a dispel on roots, for example. It is also very matchup heavy. If you're facing like frost mage, arcane mage, and destruction warlock, good luck winning that round. Again, like it's very matchup heavy. While again, frost mage, I'm sorry, people can say I prefer to play versus casters, which I think it's not true. It's not true. I think melees are way better for frost mage actually. But you don't really have bad matchups. You have some bad matchups, like for example playing versus some priests that can massy spell, very annoying, which is a bit meta with disc priest and such. But still, you have some bad matchups here and there. Same for arcane mages. If you play versus purges, it becomes like way less tanky. But if you're playing without a purge against you, it feels like god mode. It's the same, very matchup heavy, but I would say warriors are way more inclined of getting bad matchups. While rogue specs, again, like I said, specialized specs, Retribution Paladin actually drops very, very low. It's 45, by the way. 45 of them actually gets to 2100. And still this is 460, 1800. That's actually a good percentile. So 1/10. Again, it's not that bad. I thought it was worse. But 1/10 of them actually gets 2100. But you have to think about a lot of Retribution Paladins that are actually below 1800, and those are actually like the meat and potatoes of that ladder, and the same for a lot of specs. So again, I hope people do understand what I'm saying with that. I know it's a long video, but I wanted to explain, because people like try to maybe not understand me, or maybe I was not clear. But it is a custom meta. It will show on my soul shuffle tier list this Friday, I guess. I wanted to make it Friday because then I have like plenty of time to actually play lots of soul shuffle and to test a lot of those changes. And I still have a clear idea on the meta at the moment, but I need to have confirmation with the patch that is going to come out tomorrow for us in EU, excuse me. But this is kind of confirming my thought process. And again, here it's like 6,500 melees for 3,700 ranged. Let's say it's close to 50%, because it's not 50%. I know it's like a bit lower. It's like, again, you see, I would say 45. I don't know, man. It is not half. We both know that, because half would be around 7k still. But here at 2100, you see 924 melees for 607 ranged, which is then closer to 66% of the melees. So again, you don't need to be super good at math. Again, I'm not really the best at math either, but you see that this number is very close to this number, while this at 1800, you see the disparity is way bigger. And if that is not an indication of the meta, then I don't know what to say. A lot of people, like, again, I had the same argument with previous season with outlaw rogues, where people were saying that it was OP, but there was no representation at it. There was nothing to show about it, and it was not really OP. It was just OP in threes and on the ladder and on higher rated environments, like for example 2400, where people do understand how to capitalize on a CC. But you cannot really make a tier list or a meta around the top of the ladder. But I think 1800 and 2100 is actually a good representation of the meta, which it kind of shows that right now ranged are very strong. So hopefully you do understand that, and hopefully if you're not understanding it, please let me know in the comment section below. Again, I'm open to explain it, but don't take your personal bias, because I think it's a personal bias whenever someone says that a melee is easy to climb, but they are thinking about having demonology and DKs, which I already said it was very meta. the thing is, I'm talking about warriors, I'm talking about retribution paladin, I'm talking about windwalkers, I'm talking about survival hunter. Even them, they are specialists in my eyes, but still I'm going to talk about that. Feral druids, enhancement shaman, fury, DKs, they are bottom of the barrel. If you see that fury warriors is less represented than arcane mage, then I don't know what to say, man. Because if it's a melee meta, even fury warriors would be on top, because it is a melee meta, but it is not. I think range right now, they are very strong. Haste levels are very high, so maybe that's why. But still, again, I'm not against it. I'm playing caster as well. I love playing caster. I'm just saying, look, if you struggle as a melee, it is normal. A lot of people are struggling as a melee. In soul shuffle, in trees, it's a whole different conversation. I understand that. You can choose your comp, you can do well on it, and you can also communicate, and you have a healer that knows what's up. It's not the same, but as a caster, I think soul shuffle is really a good environment to first and foremost learn how to kite, but also to climb. I think you have way more control on how the game goes. You can CC way better the healers because you're on ranged, and also if you're playing versus melees, you have one interrupt to do, and it's only on the healer. So personally, I prefer to play versus melees whenever I'm playing warlock or mage. I understand that it looks like I'm crazy whenever I'm saying that, but trust me, if you know how to do a focus kick, if you know how to focus fear or focus polymorph, or if you know how to CC the healer, those melees, they are nothing versus you, man. But anyways, that's my take. Again, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Hopefully this video kind of enlightens a bit the videos I've made in the past. I do feel like, again, I was quite clear, but here we go. I will be making a Fury Warrior PvP guide tomorrow. There's lots to discuss, actually. I think there is something that can be cooked for Fury Warriors. Friday, I will be doing my Soul Shuffle tier list. I think Thursday, I don't know what I'm going to do. Hopefully something good. And this weekend, I'll probably make another guide, depending if I can advance on a few things. Because again, I try to make a guide with the most information possible, and try to learn to make people understand the spec as if they have never played the spec. So hopefully you are with me to watch this video. And again, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.